I'm observing that a lot of people use a lot of concepts, but they kind of seem not too capable to distinguish in between those. Or they easily end up forgetting what those concepts necessarily mean or what they refer to in the end. See, many people speak about confidence. I've been searching for this concept for 15 years within my inner walls, and all I can say is that I could never find something like that. I thought for the longest time that I am incompatible with that. But see, what humans say as confidence, see, they have some concepts which are very similar in design, but, well, they're more or less illusionary because they couldn't find more suitable words for that. See, first and foremost, confidence, and then they have the idea of freedom, and then they have the idea of power. Yes, power is something more or less illusionary depending on what they refer to. Yes, or better said, control. That is one of the biggest illusions that people dream of. They even wet themselves about that, but they do not understand what that actually may mean. When it comes to confidence, see, confidence can easily be faked. The question that I always ask people is, how do you define confidence? And it's like nobody knows to actually portray it correctly. Yes? Confidence is what, as a human, you may want to put into words, being in your own element. Yes? When you're doing that which you're most capable of, which you are by design made to function like that, that is when you'll be in your element. That is when you will look confident. Yes? Because in my case, silence is my, let's say, confidence. Yes? Silence, a certain sense of innocence and, well, childishness, let's put it so. These are parts of what I may call so called confidence, because these are my element. If I act outside of those, I will look very weird. I will feel very, very weird myself. Once I can, once I embrace, or as long as I embrace my patience, my that which I am currently. Many people will call me different names. I've been called suffering from the main character syndrome just because I am in my own element. See, when your environment kind of forces you to live within your own system for 20 years or so, you end up seeing the truths of the cosmos in a different way. You get to see things beyond your limitations, beyond your senses. I'm not saying I am the entire truth of the cosmos, but the entire truth of the cosmos as is out there. It is not necessarily that hard to observe. In the end, you can only be the truth of the cosmos when you function based on what you were given. Let's say on the karmic structure, that would be your default. Yes. Some people, especially when they are children, they kind of portray that as a guidance for their parents and for everyone around. Some children exude artistic talents. Some children are good at analyzing things. Yes? But usually society mishmashes those and mixes those, puts them in the same pot because ignorance wants everyone to function the same. Ignorance is only the tunnel that leads towards communism, or the worst, lowest level of awareness, where the only way the illusion of control can be satiated is by making everyone weaker and more stupid than you. Yes? Narcissism, for example, is another anti-chamber of communism, Zionism, whatever these forms are. These are representatives of the lowest level of awareness within the human bodies, let's say, that support those things. Yes? Because, see, humans fetishize something. They fetishize control. But when I ask them, what is it that you define as control? They give some sloppy definitions, but in the end, no one feels certain what control is. See, what is it that makes you feel you've got control over others? Asking people certain things and they do that for you? Maybe they do it out of pity, because being a pitiful creature is something that anyone can feel. It's just when you are in your own pitiful skin, you cannot feel that because almost everyone is blind to their own points, blind to their own potential as well. So if you cannot comprehend yourself, it's easy to think that you have power over others because you ask of others and you will receive. There are men who do that, there are women who do that. If you pick up a hammer, you don't have any control over it, yes? Because in the end, it's just a tool in your hand. It is freedom, yes? You are free to pick up that hammer and do whatever you wish. There will be obvious consequences, whatever you do with it. Whether you drop it on your leg, whether you bonk someone in the head with it, there will be consequences for each of that. It is your freedom to do that, but not necessarily your power. If you're capable of making that hammer levitate, you have power over its, let's say, over its information, yes? Over its energy, let's put it in a more simplified way. Yes, you do have power over that. But if you make it bend, if you break it into bits with the power of your mind, if you simply make it vanish by breaking all of its, um, let's say, molecules, and all the binds in between the molecules, right? You, let's say, rewrite its karmic structure, and you make bits out of that hammer by just looking at it or not even being in the same room with it. That is what one may call power. Yes, not necessarily control. Control, the only thing you can control is your own emotions. Yes, but most people fail horribly of that because they feel pain and they identify emotions as painful, and either they do it out of their own volition or the brain does that, because if the brain feels too much pain, it will shut down their emotional side. And that's why you get so many people in this society with psychopathic tendencies, narcissistic tendencies, sociopathic tendencies, and the such. Those are just tendencies necessarily, because the full-fledged behavioral abnormalities, as I call them, they are of a different dimension. Yes, they are burst, or they are born out of problems. Yes, psychopathy is something that one is born with. But given the fact that the brain functions on neuroplasticity and you can actually shape the structure of your brain through your own thoughts, if you're careful enough and have a certain mastery over your own system, you can redesign your brain into a psychopathic brain, or maybe even an ADHD brain. But the question is, why would you want that? Yes, there are certain things that will happen while you'll be you'll be waiting to find a new body. Based on that, life will make certain decisions, and it will look for a specific kind of karma based on what life, or the piece of life that you are beyond your physical body, it will want to experience something in the next life, and based on that, it will look for a specifically um, compatible body. Once it finds that body, it will function based on the karma of that body, which means that its main, let's say, objective, although life doesn't necessarily have an objective, but your main tendency will be towards something, so you will feel horrible about anything else. Yes, if you take an artist through maths and the such, maybe they'll not like it, maybe they'll be good at it, maybe they'll be good at it, but maybe they'll not like it. Maybe you're gonna take a mathematician through literature, most likely they will not like it, or they will like it but they will not feel too good about that. Yes, because life has lessons to learn. Yes, many people have to learn one thing: there is no such thing as freaking control. The only thing you can control is your life energy. What you do with this physical body, let's pretend it is your own control. Anything else? No. See, the more people are obsessed with their mind, the more people lose their time with their mind. They feed the mind so many ways, so many more ways through which the mind can screw them up. Because the power of the mind is that anything it shows you, any point it shows you, if you don't have a certain stability within you, if you don't have a certain level of intellect, of knowledge of your system, you will simply believe whatever your mind will tell you, and you will mistake that for intuition. Yes, you will think that that is intuition, or you will think that that is some kind of divine guidance. That's how stupid people function. Yes. Now, when we think about the mind, see, a lot of people end up trapped in their minds. They become nothing else but pitiful creatures, because that's what people who are stuck in their mind are. Let's not call them pitiful, maybe it sounds a bit too harsh. Let's sound them helpless. Yes, a lot of people are helpless if you look at them. They are not trash. Some people are, yes, obviously, but they have a trashy energy, that's why they usually become vampiric. But when you look at many people, they were never taught how to make use of their mind. So they just become helpless with their thoughts. they just become defenseless. They just become incapable of handling the mind. Because the mind has vast resources. It's not just the intellect that you speak about. Although a sick society will teach you that the mind is just the brain power. Although science is now saying and proving that what you learn is not put into your brain. Yes? You don't have actual brain power when it comes to learning. Whatever you learn becomes sedimented within your physical body. Yes? It becomes part of each and every one of your cells' memory. That is why when people obsess about things, when people have lived life long enough through fetishes or obsessions, let's call them so, like smoking and the such, have you noticed that you've quit smoking? Maybe it's been 20 years, but the pleasure still exists. Yes, the temptation still exists. Because you have inherited the memory of your ancestors. Yes, you've got the whole history of the cosmos in your own DNA. Why do you think the elites are all so obsessive about breaking the DNA code? Yes, because you've got all the power that they fetishize about in the DNA. Why do you think they hate humans? They hate humans because of the capacity that the physical body has. But their level of narcissism cannot function. It is not compatible with that potential of the physical body. They can only live in physical bodies that they torment long enough that they break almost everything out of that. And only their mental survival remains. There is no survival of the physical body much, and there is no survival at a societal level. They live together because they comprehend mentally that there will be no more control that they fetishize about. Yes? They think they have control over others, but they have to work so much to keep others ignorant. When people are ignorant, they are just mold. Yes? They're just like mold waiting to be shaped by someone else. Yes? So the point about control is the only thing you can control in life is your own energy. If you become too lost in your emotions and or your mind, you become a defenseless person. The point is, people will easily feel that you are defenseless, you are incapable of handling your mind, that you are a mishmash. So out of a certain pity or maybe even love, they will help you with certain things. Unfortunately, this will tickle some people's ego, especially if their awareness is low, or if their morals are low, or if their confidence, let's use some human terms, if their confidence is low, it will tickle their ego. It will give them a certain sense of power. It will feed the illusion that they have a certain power over others, and that is a problem, because they end up feeding the illusion even more. This means that they become greater slaves of that illusion, and there is nothing else but just that. Surely people will try to fight against this. I'm okay with that, because I've studied this system in my own primitive way for around 20 years, and I'm still doing it. That is why some people despise me, because I can see beyond most of their illusions. But my purpose is not to present their points. I can present some of their illusions and some of their weaknesses, but this comes at a price. People will not be ready to listen to things that, well, they are not ready for. They are not willing to listen to those. They will either laugh at it, they will discard it. Maybe they won't even have the courage to admit you were right so long ago when you told them that. Maybe you've been noticing that at other people. But the point is, it's just an exercise for me. Because in the end, researching consciousness, I feel, is my only childish curiosity. And, well, life goes on, I may say. So hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. I don't want to extend it too long. Take care, enjoy life. And this being said, Ferinjan Board signing out.